All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another live virtual Fireside Chat on the BPHL Facebook page. We really appreciate you coming and watching. My name is Dan Whitzer. I am the co-founder of BPHL, and I am also a senior innovation consultant at Independence Blue Cross. Today, I'm so excited to talk to Shawn Dorsey, the owner of No Hope Records in Philadelphia. Shawn and No Hope were a big help last year for the first inaugural BPHL festival. And I'm so excited to be able to talk to him and see what he's doing today. And hopefully you guys can learn some stuff about your own, musical world, arts world, whatever you're in. So yeah, let's get right into it. So thanks, Shawn. Thanks for being part of this.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So before we start, can you explain what No Hope is and like what you guys are doing?
So No Hope Records is an independent record label. We're based here in Philadelphia. An independent record label functions the same way as larger labels, but does not have major label funding, backing, distribution behind it. So it's more artist friendly, artist centric. Yeah, we've been around for 5 years now. 2020 is our 5th year anniversary. So
awesome, that's great.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know this, and I don't know if the general public really knows the difference between a major label and an indie label. Can you give a brief description of what the difference is between? And honestly, there's probably only like 3 major labels now in the world.
I believe there's only 4.
Yeah.
Most of it has to do with financial backing. Major labels will also fund sub-labels that are part of their business structure, but they do it more to focus on different genre type stuff. That's the biggest difference in terms of categorization. But it's also there's also a lot of differences in how we function versus how they function in terms of how deals are done, how money gets distributed, and just the general idea of how we work with artists.
Yeah.
They're more focused on what's popular, what's mainstream, trying to go off of trends and set new ones. Yeah. And it's not, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but it's not as artist centric as what an independent label does. We're finding bands that we love and trying to get them out into the public and into that mainstream a little more than they are already. And it's definitely more of a, I don't want to say a smaller scale, but it is smaller scale, and it can be a little more niche, but you're definitely seeing independent artists thrive more nowadays, whether it's just becoming more prevalent in their specific genres or whatever, or breaking into the actual mainstream. There's a lot of independent artists and artists that are affiliated with independent labels that are breaking into the mainstream a lot easier now. And a lot of that has to do with technology and the prevalence of streaming and whatnot. But that's sort of, there's subtle differences in the business structure of a major versus an independent that make us different, but we're all doing the same thing. It's just in a different landscape.
Yeah, definitely. And for people that are maybe in the business world and for them to understand depending on the level, obviously, of an indie label, but it's a lot like a startup. You guys are more nimble. You can jump on things quicker. You can get things out quicker. But it's really, that startup kind of mentality, I would say, for an indie label.
For sure. And if you want to like relate it like that to like a general business structure, a startup is going to find a specific purpose and a specific niche, and they're going to function the way that they want to function. And an independent label is sort of similar to a startup in that way. And a major label could kind of be like a corporation that has shareholders.
Yeah.
And they're beholden to those shareholders, and they're looking for returns on stuff. And we're not that we're not focused on making money and running our business in the best way possible, but we're also deeply passionate about the artists that we work with and the releases that we work on, and that is our main driver, not some sort of stockholder returns and stuff like that.
Definitely. So, obviously this time there's a lot of, stoppages to the stuff that you do, in terms of live performances and whatnot. How do you feel the COVID-19 and everything that's happening right now will have artists innovating in new ways for releasing music or engaging with fans? Or do you have any tips on how bands right now, or artists or musicians or anyone can engage with their audience without being able to play live?
Yeah, it's been really tough for artists in general, our artists included, without being able to play live. That is really where their livelihood lies. Being able to play live. Most of them, that's where they make most of their money. And right now, especially the artists that are strictly musicians and don't have other jobs, that's really tough. They lost a lot of revenue, not being able to tour this spring. Most of the stuff for the summer is gone. So yeah, it's really tough for them right now. I think what this has shown so far, and one of the things that artists can do, is to really engage with their audience via social media, whatever the platform. A lot of bands are playing live on Facebook and Instagram, and engaging with their fans that way. Some bigger artists have been able to do paid live shows on platforms like Stage It, which has been really good. It helps them get at least a little bit of money in, and it's a more intimate, given the circumstances.
Yeah,
it's a way to be intimate with your fan base and interact in something in a different manner. One of our artists, Vinny Caruana, has been doing shows at least twice a week from his living room, and that's a different perspective for fans to be able to get to see, to be able to come into his living room and have him play music just to you. Is a pretty cool thing. So it's things like that, and then engaging on social media just in general. Even your favorite artists, even the big ones, we're all in the same boat right now. So to be able to engage your fans via social platforms is a big thing, and I think it's teaching artists and businesses in the arts landscape that even when this is over, that's something that we should continue to develop, and engage with our fan bases in those manners, and give them different looks that they don't always get. And I think that in music specifically, social media has been a game changer over the last 10 years or so, and it has given fans the ability to engage with their favorite artists in a different way, at least to see what their daily lives are like, what they do off stage and whatnot, or like come into the studio with them and whatnot. But I think this has really shown the importance of that engagement, and the bands or artists that were not fully engaging gave kind of a roadmap to do that. And also, kind of show the importance of going forward, how we can engage better.
Do you think, or even, I have two different thoughts. So one is, before we got on here, you were telling me a story about one of your bands literally wrote and released a song from separate places. And that's incredible to see. We obviously, there's from being in music and playing in bands, you want to be with people, like that's obviously amazing, and you get that vibe, off of each other. But being able to write in completely separate places and release song, like that's super amazing. Do you think that more things like that will come, obviously during this time, but then after that they'll be like, oh well, we can do this way, we can write music across the country from each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's actually something that we've seen in the past couple of years or so. There's a good amount of bands where people do live in different parts of the country, and they do write remotely, whether it's coming up with a part and popping it in Dropbox, and the
Yeah.
rest of your bandmates can pick that up and do what they're going to do with it. So we've seen some of that over the past couple of years, mostly out of necessity for bands that are in different places. But yeah, it's stuff like that, especially right now when it's really hard to be creative,
Yeah.
that is kind of a good way for them to be able to continue to create with each other. Yeah, we Sleep In, one of our bands, will be putting out a song soon that they wrote entirely in separate places while they've been quarantined.
That's amazing.
One of our friends' bands, Punchline out of Pittsburgh, they just did the same thing, released it last week, and they had they had their fans all film like 4 5 second clips of themselves at home and
Yeah.
compiled a music video for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so um, it kind of shows a different level of creativity for these people that really need to be creative.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's showing, new innovative ways that maybe because of the constraints, maybe these bands or people, businesses, whatever, wouldn't have thought of in the past. And now like that's a great engagement piece for Punchline to do that. Now you're a fan, but you get to be part of the music video, but you get to stay home. Like it's all really interesting how that works now. And something that I also want to talk to you about is that it seems like from being in music, I've seen a lot of funny memes where they're like people are doing the same thing they would have done for their local band right now, is to not go out and see them. But what's interesting is that people are engaging with I feel like the local scene and the music and the arts world is kind of coming to the forefront of how people are dealing with this crisis right now.
Mm.
My feed on social is filled with different bands playing live every single. I think Dashboard's playing live, or not Dashboard. Death Cab for Cutie is playing live every single night. Like I'm pretty sure he's
Yeah.
doing acoustic every night. But it's interesting how people are using the arts world to kind of cope with this and have a release. So, what are your thoughts on that and how music is really coming to the forefront? And what is your hopes that once this is over, how people will still view music and the arts, at that kind of like necessity? We need this kind of level.
I think that all of it is great. I do think that people are kind of replacing their daily listening habits, whether it's Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, with watching whatever band play on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform. I do think some of that is happening because if you look at streaming numbers for the industry as a whole, they're kind of down since this has all started.
True.
From our standpoint, it hasn't been super significant, but they are down a little bit. I think that kind of shows you that people are like listening to Spotify or either on their commutes or in their office or something like that. But I think that some of that is being replaced by this playing live on the social platforms. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I just think it's a great engagement tool, and just gives a different perspective. And I hope a lot of it sticks around afterwards because it just gives people such a different side of what their favorite artists are. And as far as like one of my concerns overall, like it's great to see people engaging with their local scene and whatnot. I'm worried about some of the, like here in Philly specifically, we have a thriving live music scene, and that comes from these bars and venues of all different size capacities that give a place for live music to thrive. So I'm just hoping that some of those are able to weather through this and that still exists, because we have a unique and thriving music culture here. And I would hate to see that go away, because as great as all of this interactive stuff and all of the different innovative ways that bands and artists are finding to engage with their fans and stay in the forefront. As great as that is, we still need that live aspect for the arts, specifically for music, to continue to thrive.
Definitely. And that actually leads perfect into my next question. But before I say that, I want to let everyone know that's watching. If you have any questions for Shawn, feel free to list them in the comments on the BPHL Facebook page. We'll be asking them later on if anyone has any questions. But that's a perfect segue into my next question. After this is all over and people are able to go out to see live shows and go to their local bar or go to a larger venue, what are other ways that you, obviously, going out to see the bands and going out to see shows, but what are other tips that you can give for people to support, whether it's their local band, whether it's bands on your label, whether it's, a major label artist? Like, what are ways that people can support these artists after this is all over?
So the best way before and after this, the best way to support artists is always going to be to go to their shows and buy physical media, whether that's vinyl records, CDs, cassettes, T-shirts, whatever. That's always going to be the best way to support an artist. And if you really want to support your favorite bands, then go to the shows and buy that stuff from them directly. That's probably not something as a label owner that I should be saying as much, but that's the best way to support your favorite bands, because they're going to keep most of that money. That's always been the tried and true way, and I don't see that changing at all. But I guess this is also teaching everyone not to continue to come back to the same point, but be engaged with bands, with your scene, and that's the best way to support them, because the more you talk about them, outside of buying
Yeah.
music, of course, the more you talk about them on social media or with your friends, etc., that's how they're going to continue to grow.
And that's what I was going to say too, that obviously going out and physically buying something or going to see them, purchasing a ticket to go see them, but sharing that stuff out, that content out, when a band has a new song that you like, share it, because your friends are probably going to like that too, and they might not have heard of it. So, I think that's, like you said, that's super important. Using that social media, but share it out, talk to people about it, let them know, like, hey, let's go to the show. We haven't been outside in months. Let's all go to this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's all very important, and hopefully people, I think they think people will start to go out to see those shows.
Yeah. Another thing we've been trying to do is get, I know I said that streaming as a whole has been down, but we've been trying to interact via playlists. Last week we did a playlist called Songs to Quarantine To, and we had a bunch of artists from our label go in and throw in songs that they were listening to while they're staying home and whatnot. We're just trying to engage more with things like that. So you can, hey, I'm a fan of 2319, and this is what they're listening to. You check that out. We're just trying to do different things like that to stay engaged.
Yeah. So what are some bands or artists that, both on your label and not on your label, that are like helping you get through this time period of having to stay at home?
So on our label, Vinny Caruana has been excellent. He's been out at the forefront, and he has been super interactive and online playing all the time. And he and his wife were both also sick during this.
Oh, wow.
So it just shows you his commitment to his craft, and it's a really special thing to see. Luckily, they're doing better now, but it just kind of gives you a little bit of hope, to see someone with that kind of drive. We had a new record come out last week from a band from Long Island called Inner Love. That record's great. You should check it out. That's been really helpful. Other than that, we are in the process of releasing a record, a Jersey band called Sun Title. There's 2 singles out for that, so that's been fun. I've been my music tastes are all over the map, so I kind of tend to go back to a lot of like 90s, early 2000s stuff. That is kind of my upbringing. American football, Saves the Day, Punchline, all that kind of stuff, movie life. I've been diving into some of that kind of stuff, and then I don't know, a lot of labels are doing really, really great things right now. Trying to stay on top of new releases and playlists that they're all doing. Top Shelf Records, Polyvinyl, Double Whammy have all been doing great stuff. So I'm trying to, me personally, I've never been a big playlist person. I like to listen to a record start to finish, but I've been trying to get into playlists more while I'm doing this, because we always have music on at the house. So I've just been trying to stay on top of how other labels and other artists are trying to do the same thing that we're doing, and hopefully discover some new stuff and stay on top of things.
Nice. I've been trying to listen to different music in my house while I'm working, but my 2-year-old Posey just wants to listen to the Trolls theme soundtrack. That's honestly right now. I've given so many plays to the Trolls soundtrack. It's been crazy. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this. Now it's Trolls. She's just gonna dance. I will say today though, I was listening to a little bit of Sweet Pill, and she started to dance. I was like, oh, maybe I can like work this into our regiment.
Sweet Pill put out a couple singles late last year, and then they've been re-releasing some of their early stuff throughout the spring. You should definitely check that out too. They're supposed to be in the studio this month, but that's not going to happen.
Sucks.
It's been an issue with a couple of our bands. And it's kind of wrecking havoc on our fall winter schedule, but we'll figure it out.
So what has what has kept you staying positive during this time? Like, is there anything specific that's been like, this is really got me into a positive mindset of how things will happen after this, or how things will go after this?
I mean, first and foremost, like, we're going to get through this, and we will all come out on the other side. And I don't know if things will go back to where they were, but if they don't, then we'll create a new normal and we'll all figure it out. So that's first and foremost. But I guess overall, I love the independent music community. I love being a part of it, and even before I was part of it in a business sense, it's kind of where I lived my life. I've always been a huge fan of it, and the music industry took a different turn in the late 2000s when streaming and downloading came to be the prevalent formats, and the whole industry had to change. And at the time, it was kind of a little more difficult for independent labels and independent artists to kind of forge their own path, because there was so much money being spent and there wasn't the returns, because people weren't buying CDs anymore, and people hadn't really figured out how to really work in the world of streaming and downloading. But that opened up a space when things changed for independent labels and artists to be able to come up with new and innovative ways to thrive. And they ultimately did thrive. And now you see tons of independent labels and even bands without labels being able to make their own way. And to me, that is because we're not beholden to some corporate structure that just has a singular focus. We can adapt and change what we're trying to see out of each release, or a calendar year as a whole. It's not always set in stone, and we can also find different ways to market and different avenues to get people to see what we're working on and whatnot. So to see that progress over the past 10 years or so gives me a lot of hope that we're going to come out of this, and we're still going to be finding new and different ways to be able to do things and set ourselves apart from people and businesses that are going to continue to try and do things the same way.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's definitely great to hear, and that's how independent labels have grown so much since the early 2000s. The boom of the internet and that streaming like changed everything.
Yeah.
I actually wrote my master's dissertation on all of that, like how it's changed the whole industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, hearing you talk about it, it makes so much sense, and it's great to see that you have that positive mindset. Like, we're going to change it. Something's going to happen, and we're just going to adjust, and we'll keep moving on. And that's the best way to think about it.
Yeah. So I just thought of this, but another way to support artists and labels through this is a platform like Bandcamp. If you're not familiar with Bandcamp, it's a streaming and downloading site. They also have an app where everything that you purchase can be right in the app, similar to an Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. But labels and artists get a higher percentage of that money than they do something like Spotify. So you'd be really helping to support independent music by using a platform like Bandcamp. They also allow you to pay more if you want for a release, which is really great for artists. And then on Monday, Spotify is going to be doing some sort of fundraising thing where you can either give more money to the specific artist, or the artist can pick a charity that you can donate to.
Awesome.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah. So before we finish off, I want to just ask, what do you think the biggest lesson learned will be from coming, from the COVID-19, everything that's happened? What do you think the big lesson learned will be?
That's a tough one, since we're still kind of in it, and
it doesn't have to be. It could be for just your industry. It could be for personal, people. It could be whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, industry related. I think to tie together everything that we've talked about is for artists and businesses in general to remain engaged at all times, whether it's a fan base or customer base or whatever. Keep people engaged so your brand stays at the forefront. As a whole, I think there's a lot of societal changes that hopefully can come out of this. I think the situation with healthcare has really come to the forefront with all of this, and the issues with healthcare that is tied to employment. If you look at the unemployment numbers that have been in the last 3 weeks, I think it's almost 17 million people. I think that is something that has come to the forefront in a very strong way, and it's something that as a society I think that we need to address, and hopefully I've seen in my neighborhood in South Philly, people really being cognizant of each other and looking out for the community, and it's one of the reasons that I love living in this city as a whole. But hopefully, from my perspective, I want to see that continue to come out of this, and that's true of our local music scene, of businesses and how they interact with the community and your neighbors as a whole. I would just like to see everyone come out of this and fight for each other more often, not when things get really bad.
No, definitely, I totally agree. And then before we end, because we're coming out to the end, let everyone know about the little festival concert series that you're doing.
Next Saturday, the 18th, No Help Records is going to have a online music festival. We'll be announcing it on Monday, I believe. In the afternoon to the early evening, we'll be doing it on Instagram, and we'll be having 8 of our artists play live, and we'll also be doing a little Q&A type session in between songs, so you can get to know these artists a little more. We'll also have 2 brand new artists that we haven't even announced yet playing sets on that as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, everyone definitely go check that out next Saturday. And Shawn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and talking and bringing your perspective of the arts and music world. I really hope that people take that love of music and the arts that they're seeing right now on social media and sharing it and all that, and take that into the quote unquote real world when we actually get to go out and interact with people again. Because it's been great to see the love and passion for music during this time. Sure. So awesome. So yeah, thank you so much again. And yeah, I'll definitely talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, see ya.
See ya.
See you guys.